Welcome back to the Lunchtime Catch Up podcast. It is so good to be back. We continue on our draft series. This one today is going to have a different flavor, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have this show. We've obviously been talking to a lot of experts, and it's very been Essendon-centric, besides the Pommy and Oz show. But look, this week, what we wanted to do, because so many people ask us, what is Richmond doing? What are the Eagles going to do? Are they, I thought, well, let's get some influences on from the Eagles and from the Tigers. So we have Chris from TigerCast, and we have Jeff from, is it Jep? Sorry, I should say Jep. I've just forgotten the podcast. What's it?
The Plus Six podcast.
Plus Six podcast. I knew I was going to forget something. So welcome, Chris, and welcome, Jep.
Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Scotty.
Now, look, it's so good to have you on. I'll probably start with you, Jep, because this is the first time we've ever really kind of met or talked. I watch Chris's show quite a bit, so I kind of comment in his show, so I feel like I know Chris. But Jep, tell us a little bit about your background, your podcast, and your connection with the Eagles, just a bit of your history.
Yeah, just quick. Yeah, so I'm more of the AFL fantasy guru type guy, but I used to, and I still have an interest in the draft and the rookies. That used to be my sort of category for fantasy. Had a long-standing podcast with the Plus Six podcast and writing for DT Talk with Warnie and the lads. And yeah, it's footy's a fun thing for me. It's a good hobby. And obviously our teams are at the wrong end of the ladder, and we're going to start talking about how we think we can turn that around.
Well, exactly. And that's probably going to a little bit of the theme of the show is three teams trying to get out and have that kind of Hawthorn breakout year and start getting up towards the top. Now, Chris from TigerCast, out of curiosity, I must admit, Chris, I've probably been more following you this year. Tell us about your show. Am I right saying it's more of a YouTube-based sort of streaming show? Tell us about the history of it and why you came up with it.
We started in 2017, so we take credit for the success of the football club with the flags. No, but essentially it was a byproduct. So we're all sort of on the big footy forums, right, which I'm sure everyone's heard of. And the site owners were wanting podcasts for all the different teams. And, yeah, they just put it out there. Who'd want to host a podcast? And there was a lot of people saying they'd rather just be a guest. And, I just thought I'd put my hand up and run the podcast, and it's just sort of grown from there. So it did start out just audio only, just on your iTunes, Spotify, things like that. And then maybe for the last 4 or so years, we went across to YouTube and did the video audio format. And now YouTube's pretty much taken over. It's probably the number one platform for us. But up until October last year, we were only doing our one weekly show a week on the Monday night where we just talk about the games. And it was pretty much led because of the 8 draft picks that we had was pretty unprecedented.
Yep.
And it just felt like there was a bit more to talk about and a bit more content that Richmond people were after. So, yeah, I sort of got myself working and put out a bit more content. And it's pretty much, grown quite substantially since then. And there's a bit of an appetite from Richmond supporters, which is good.
Sounds good. I'll stick with you, Chris, just for now, but I'll ask both of you the same question. The Tigers. So end of season happens in 2025. How do your thoughts about how your season went? We know, Smiley and a few guys didn't overly get on the park as probably much as you like. But how did you feel some of your kids went and overall sort of the direction of the club?
I mean, given that we were somewhat tipped to not win a game or many games, it has to be called a successful year, right? We more than doubled our wins from the previous year, despite losing 1,600 games of experience. So that's a big tick. And then the youngsters playing, Lawler, we all knew was going to be a good player. Unfortunately, injury prevented him from playing the full season. But Luke Traynor plays 21 games and looks really good. Down back and played on the wing a little bit, which not a lot of Richmond people liked, but it was basically because the back line was so stable for us that we just had to fit him in somewhere else. But Jonty Fall and Armstrong playing up forward was good to see. Jonty, I didn't actually expect to see much of this year because of the back injuries he came in with, but he can kick a ball a seriously long way. And for him, the inaccuracy for him this year was probably the big letdown. Like he probably left 15 to 20 goals on the table, which would have made a big difference in some games. And Tom Sims was the other one that I actually didn't think we would see this year at all. So we took him, I think, in the second round last year. But he got some game time early and did some backup ruck work and played up forward. So to get a good look at the kids was good. And then the big story for us, I suppose, was Tash Houghton playing later in the year.
Big time.
I was really keen on him in the draft year, and I always put out there that we had to take the risk. Just because we had the picks in the bank, right? Like, if you only had one pick in the draft, you're probably going to avoid a player who's gone through what he went through with the ACL. But because we had so many other picks on hand, we could kind of be a bit more adventurous, and he could quite well end up being the best of the lot. To be honest, he's a freakish kid.
Yeah, so true. And I've noticed even recent videos you highlighting Harley Barker, and I can imagine that experience that you've just had about why you don't just throw away an ACL, of like they actually can come back at that age and be very, very good footballers and highly touted. So look, from afar, I'll just give you I thought Richmond had a sensational year. It kind of ideally worked out perfect because you just didn't get that one or two more wins that maybe get you up the ladder a bit. So you kind of showed a lot. But kind of finished in the right area as well to get where you are.
And we do have to shout out North Melbourne as well for giving us a good pick as well. So, yeah, thanks to them. No,
so you look, from an Essendon man, I thought it was a great first year post that draft. And there was some kind of questions, I say, outside of Richmond on your coach and that, but I think that's kind of been squashed a bit. Because I think he galvanised and got the guys from my side that were playing really good footy, playing for the jumper, had some really nice moments. Obviously, the big tackle at the end against Jep's side was some memorable moments. So look, Richmond, you feel like are going places, and they've still got some. Just quickly before I go to Jep, where is Josh Smiley at? Is he expected to have a full preseason?
Yeah, he's actually still training now. So Uze was on SEN the other day, and they did ask about Josh Smiley. He's been out there doing some more conditioning and training, etc. It sounded like he was really close to playing in the VFL final series. I reckon if we had got through one more week, he might have been a chance. It's risky. I mean, people think it's risky, but the kids are drafted to play footy, right? And I think mentally for him, it would have been good to have played a few more games. But it looks like he's trimmed down. I think they had to just redefine his body a little bit, I think he's almost 196 centimetres now. And, I always try and imagine asking a key forward from your club to try and run midfield minutes. It just doesn't seem fathomable. So to redefine his body and fix his running up and just get him into the right shape, I think he'll hit the ground running in pre-season. So he's essentially a new draftee for us as well, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and look, over to you, Jep. Eagles, look, obviously for their fans, probably another fairly tough year, but it did have some moments. I thought, just Harley Reid's second half of the year really started to show what we know of him. You had the mid-season draftees of all mid-season draftees. Baker's inclusion I thought was really, really strong. Elijah Hewitt's actually one of my favourite players to watch from this side of, from an Essendon point of view. So I thought there was some really, even though it kind of finished last, but there was definitely some nuggets that you could grab onto as a fan. But I'll be interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, 100%. There's positives to take out of, the worst season in Eagles history. New coach, new game plan, and I think the biggest adjustment from Simo to Mini was the slow build-up game plan that Simo liked, the controlled footy, versus the fast-paced chaos footy that Mini's more accustomed to in that front half game. We just couldn't do that for 4 quarters. We tried, and they persisted and pushed it, and you could see it happen for 3 in some games. But ironically, the game we won against St Kilda, they played really slow and allowed us to play probably fast. And let us do it for longer. So, yeah, hopefully with a younger list and another pre-season that they can do it for longer. But you're right, there were signs there. I thought Jinby had a phenomenal year
Yeah, it
as an
did.
undersized key defender. McCarthy, great. Graham and Bake obviously did their leadership parts, and Bakes will be captain next year, no doubt about it. But yeah, there's holes to fill, and there's definitely gaps to fill and improvement needed. And this draft's a big one, and I think we need to nail it. But now that the first year's out of a new game plan, and we can build on that and get better. I was shocked that guys like Hoff, who I thought was pushing that, top defender in the AFL, top 40 All Australian type areas as a lockdown defender, he got moved to the midfield, which was a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But Minnie's testing the list, right? A lot of players got moved and tested, and I'm sure there were some harsh words and throughout the year and at the exit interviews. And yeah, there's been a bit of a clean out. I think we got 8 senior listed players to fill, or senior list spots to fill, and with this compensation package and our interest in a few players here and there, it sounds like we're going to get an extra 4 rookie spots. So they'll be interesting. But yeah, we definitely need improvement, and the only way is up.
Yeah, and exactly. And look, I remember watching, because I wanted him for us to select him last year. I remember in the VFL, Essendon VFL, watching Jobe Shanahan. And I remember a game where Wright was basically dropped, right? Peter Wright. He just wasn't playing well. And it was him and Jobe Shanahan. And Shanahan kicked 5 and Peter Wright kicked 3. And Shanahan, it was very clear, like, well, this kid's got really something. And I was like, here's me telling the staff, like, no, this kid's got really something. And they kind of knew it, but they just where their picks are at, it was like really awkward. Just quickly, your thoughts. How did you find his year? I reckon there's a real play there, but how did you find it?
Oh, 100%. And look, the proof's in the pudding. We would be bidding a lot harder for Oscar Allen if Shanahan wasn't on our list, right? So that's what they see. It's pretty clear to me that Shanahan's the new Oscar. Oscar's again a great fellow, and obviously going to get a bit of a purse over at Brisbane, and he'll thrive, with those guys putting it pretty much straight on his chest, and compete for another GF or top 4. So yeah, it's I think if Shanahan and his ability to market at the highest point, that's a clear highlight for me. Like Nate Caddy, it's really promising and exciting.
Could I ask just one of the questions, just while I got you two, before we start kind of talking specifically about the draft? You're obviously after Starcevic, right? And putting in a sort of a big contract. Is there nerves around what the implications may be with the compensation pick, or is the sense over there that you feel like you're still going to get that pick too? Because over here, I'm reading some of the stories and there's like this 10% of doubt, like how the AFL may handle if Starcevic selects the Eagles. What's your kind of take on that?
My thought initially is that what Brisbane will want and need is very different what we can offer. So normally take North Melbourne's compensation package from a few years back, they had to trade their end of first round pick for players. So that essentially means that if we do get an end of first round, it's going to go to Brisbane. Mm-hmm. Now, would that get on traded by Brisbane? Probably, who knows? But Brisbane, that's going to get diluted in the annual points selection there. So I'm not sure how that works internally and what the discussions are. I was hoping part of the compo package, come on Andrew Dillon, that we could on-trade it to the Gold Coast and package up some picks for pick 6 or 7 or 6/7. That's what I'm hoping. But, let's just take what we get, I suppose.
Yeah, it will be very interesting how the AFL kind of handle it if Starcevic selects the Eagles, and do they give you pick 2? Do they give you pick 19 or whatever? It'd be really interesting because it has such. I mean, probably for all three of us, it has such big implications. Whether it, because we would probably go, myself a diecast, like, yay, like if it was 19. But I understand. I don't know about you. I always have a cynical view on sometimes the AFL that I go, no, they're going to give them pick 2 because they need it. Like there's like, you know, the Eagles obviously are lodging for help to the AFL for a reason, and sometimes you can do that through mechanisms that the AFL is famous for.
Correct. Yeah. Look, they're obviously not going to announce it before the grand final. They met on Monday. I tried messaging Ryan Daniels, who you guys would know, be very familiar of. But yeah, there's nothing that they know of yet. And the announcement will be next week after the GF. So we just see what happens. There will be some form of compensation for sure. I do believe Oscar Allen does trigger the band 1 with his pay packet and the years on the term.
Yep.
But yeah, we don't know until it's written in context and written in law, I suppose.
No, we're the same with Draper. I think Essendon fans generally think it's 50-50, and that's more just on the actual what he's getting offered. We know it's 5 years and a trigger, but the trigger doesn't mean anything to a compo deal. So it's a really tricky one about what the length of time is, and so we don't really know yet. And like I'm the same thing. Is like I tell people like. Part of me thinks AFL probably wants the Essendon Football Club to wake itself up and may just go, oh, he is pick 6. if it helps you out, it helps you. So that's sometimes how I read the AFL. But I want to go to you, Chris, because we're going to get stuck into the draft. Tell me, as a Richmond fan, I'll kind of give you a 2-part question here.
Mm-hmm.
The players that you just genuinely like in the draft. So, and then on a second part, the players that you like for the Richmond Football Club, and that can be anybody between 1 and 20. It could be so. Just I guess I'm not saying straight away. You're just where your picks are at.
Yeah.
Who do you like in the draft, and who you go? They would suit Richmond.
No, yeah, the two things definitely don't align from my perspective. One of the players I really like is Noah Hibbins-Hargraves. I just like his X factor. He can turn a game on its head, and I've always had this really gut feeling that he could partner Tash Houghton really nicely. The only issue is his inconsistency's been obviously wide reported and poses a little bit of a concern. And I don't think he's someone that we would think about taking with 3 or 4, of course, but if the split picks start to happen and picks end up in the teens, he becomes a bit more of a viable option, and he's someone that I think is just a genuine excitement machine. Sam Cumming I've liked as well, and he is someone that I do think we could take as a legitimate option at 3 or 4. We need midfielders. He's got speed, more speed than the current midfield crop that we have anyway, and it's the impressive thing with him was that Sandford game when he kicked the 3 goals, had 25 touches in the seniors. Like, I don't care what level of football is. If you can do things like that against men in senior football, I reckon it counts for something.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people come back at me, like Richmond people, about the go home factor. I don't buy into it. Yeah. I mean, as clubs, you got to back yourself to keep the kids at your club, and if they can play footy and they fit the needs, you got to draft them. And Jacob Farrow is another one too, who's been super impressive. Would I be a bit more concerned about taking someone from WA than SA? Probably, but if he was the best available and he fit our need the most as someone who could potentially play off halfback at the start and roll through the midfield if a Josh Lindsay was gone, for example, then I think you've got to be open to it.
Yeah. How about yourself, Jeb?
Yeah, look, obviously Will Dersma is the clear number 1 for me. He changes games wherever he plays. He's a great kick, and obviously his height allows him to play anywhere on the field. So, yeah, he's a real good asset, and definitely a future star, much like Brendan Goddard for St Kilda and Essendon fans. I also like Sam Cumming, Chris. I think he's a jet. He just goes hell for leather all the time, 100% when he's on the ground. Probably to his gentleman a bit because he blows himself up. But, his work rate and effort is definitely there. And you're right, that Sandford game where he tore it up was something special. And last one for me, guys, is Lockie Doverston. I think, where we're at for West Coast specifically, but every time he touches the ball, Doverston, something good happens. So, yeah, he's obviously a forward half player that can do damage and link up and set up play. So, yeah, they're the three.
Yeah,
Have we deliberately not said Roby for a reason? Are we all just dancing around the obvious one?
No, it's my turn now.
Okay, you go. Good.
No, look, it's funny. I have this theory. This theory sometimes, like especially with the Melbourne shows, and you may understand this, but because the Talent League finished recently, I do generally feel sometimes there's a bit of recency biased because South Australia won the national championships, and the captain of that team had the craziest national championship with Dyson Sharp. So I sometimes think like, well, I really like Dyson Sharp, but look, Will Dersmer's obviously there's just something to say when you have a player that has the potential, well short of it now, but has the potential in 4 or 5 preseasons to be a Bonton, Pelly, that kind of plug it and fix it, midfield, half forward, half back. It's underestimated how long his arms are. So his marking prowess is so dangerous because who he's normally going to run with, especially if he's in a midfield, they're just not going to be able to handle it when he's got a frame on, almost like a Fife back in his heyday, and have that overmarking presence. So I really like him. I think we're the same with Sam Cumming. I do like Javan Philippou as a smoky late sort of teen selection. I think he's like a year away. Like I think he's quite raw, but in just some of the games, he just did some things that you just go, oh, that's nice. Like that's some talent there. But then he'll do the opposite where you go, well, that's a bit immature. But for me, he's one I'd be really interested. Look, Sullivan Roby, then no doubt. I've gone to the last 3 of his games live. He really is quite a bit of a running machine, by the way. He transitions really well. He has respect for defense, which as an Essendon fan, as a midfielder, almost brings a tear to the eye. So look, he obviously fits the need for us, and that's an obvious one. So look, they're probably the names as someone just as a rarity, like in the late 30s, which I think will happen. There's a kid called Rory Wright, who I just think just reminds me of a little bit sometimes of our Archie Roberts, who was pick 54. And I just feel like if there's a little bit of late gold there, I think he's going to go quite late. But I've watched him a few times, and I just see something in him. Like he's got a bit of animal about him, but he's got a really nice left boot, can mark sort of tall. So as a late pick, I reckon he's a little bit of gold. But yeah, it's an intriguing draft, and like we were talking at the start, Chris Harley-Barker is I think a very, very talented wingman that a lot of teams will have a discussion on of whether they can take the risk.
I'm praying they don't take the risk, because that's probably the other big need we have at the moment. We don't have what I would say a certified gun wingman. We've trialled a few players here and there, but again, if we can somehow acquire a pick for maybe Tyler Young, or if anything else comes up with a split pick that could be used for Harley Barker, I'm wishful thinking he slips to somewhere in the 20s and 30s, probably not going to happen. But he would be someone I would definitely be looking at from a Richmond perspective. Not for the now. I think people sometimes get caught up about how many games the draftee will play the next year, and it's not really about that. Like, it doesn't matter for us if he doesn't play next year, because we're not contending anyway. So we can let him come back in August or July, August, and do the VFL, very similar to Taj Houghton, the same kind of path. And then I'm thinking about the Richmond of 3 to 4 years' time. He would be a very good wingman for us.
So I guess on draft night, I asked both of you. I actually should have mentioned Xavier Taylor, by the way. I guess he's a gun as well. But on draft night's finished. Chris, who today, which could after combine, you could have a very completely different opinion. But who today do you think Richmond pick 3, pick 4? Who do you think the names are most likely going to be called out?
It's honestly changed week to week, which I'm sure you've both done the same thing. And everyone else who does draft stuff. So after talking to a few different people today as well, it does seem like I always work off the assumption that West Coast do get picked 2. So if we have 3 and 4, it feels like that 3 will definitely take a pick with, and I think it almost has to be Sullivan Roby if we want him, because he won't last past Essendon's picks, in my view, or any further after that. And I do think there's a distinct possibility we will trade pick 4 and split it if that's where we end up, whether it's helping Hawthorn trying to facilitate a higher pick for merit, or whether it's with Gold Coast or whatever it might look like. But if we were to go to the draft with 3 and 4, I think as it stands now, we would take Roby and Xavier Taylor because Vlauston is maybe 2 or 3 years away from retirement. Nathan Broad's retiring next year. He just would slot into that backline area nicely. Good intercept, attacks really well, and I think he might complement Luke Traynor a little bit too. And we've got, even though Josh Gibcus is sort of back, it's still a little bit of an unknown how he's going to recover more mentally from the 2 injuries and how he settles back in. So I just think we maybe need another certainty down there. And his grand final was pretty phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. So I hear a lot of Richmond fans mention Sam Grill because of the VFL. So your belief is it's going to be very, very close, but maybe just too early for who else is around.
I think so. I mean, there could be. It's really hard because the argument's always that needs versus best available, and he probably doesn't fit into the best available category at 3 and 4, but he probably fits the needs category.
Yeah.
Or do you take the punt and split a pick and hope that he's there in the teens and get him then? But interestingly, even last year with the amount of sort of trainer or the players that we had play VFL for us, we didn't take any of them. So it's never a guarantee anyway. But he did look good in the VFL games he played for us. Jake Batchelor was super impressed and was very complimentary about his work rate, professionalism, the way he went about it, and pretty much said he'd love to have him there every week if he was able to. So I definitely get the appeal and I definitely understand the need aspect of it. I just don't know whether we'd go for him at that high.
Yeah, look, I perfectly understand that. And it's always the nervous part when you have someone that you go, oh, do we, don't we? And you go, please don't turn out like Max Holmes. Please don't turn out like Max Holmes.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And Jep, I'll be interested because you may actually have certain scenarios in your head about what happened. Let's end of draft night. What's your thoughts on what's most likely going to happen with the West Coast Eagles?
Well, I think trading one of our top 2 picks is going to happen. I think that's very likely. And let's just assume it's pick 1 to Essendon for picks 5, 6, and whatever other pick swaps there are amongst it. So with that scenario, I think we still save 2 or keep 2, and we go with CDT, given our ruck situation. But not just that, we're losing Oscar Allen too. And West Coast see Archer Reid as actually a future number 1 ruck, and not many people know that. There was a game, probably around 14 or 15, where Matty Flynn was getting tailed up by whoever, and Archer went in for the main ruck for the better part of the end of the game, and did quite well. So yeah, Archer Reid touted as a future number 1. So yeah, CDT will fit quite nicely, and obviously he's going to take time to develop. But then later on, with picks 5 and 6 or whatever they end up being after academy selections, I think Dyson Sharp's the obvious one. And when you do that, and we sort of spoke pre-pod about pairing up players so they get some comfort with others, I think pairing up Sharp and Cumming would be pretty handy. If not, then obviously Jacob Farrow's there as well as the local future Jordan Dawson, sort of Hayden Young type prototype. So yeah, there's a million scenarios, right? We got to get through trade 2 weeks and see what happens. But I think very likely we're going to trade one. Just pick one.
On the scenario you don't trade, do you just think it's naturally going to be CDT and Dersma?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we'll go Dersma. He'll. There's definitely a spot on the wing for him to warm up to, and gee whiz, neighbour's dog going off. Sorry, listeners, and
We can't hear it, so that's all right.
I couldn't hear
oh,
it.
good, and yeah, it's and CDT will get sort of looked after slowly, but yeah, with Dersman and CDT if we hold the picks.
That scenario, Jep, throws a massive spanner in the works for us, I think. If you trade the pick one for Essendon to take Dersma, you take CDT, and Sharp's still on the table. He's such a polarising player, and I kind of don't understand why he's so polarising because of how good his champs was. Like, he was quite clearly the best player, and it would be really fascinating to see if we included him in the mix for 3 or 4. If that trade scenario played out, I would feel almost certain in saying that we would keep both picks. I don't think we would split if that was to play out, if Sharp sort of stays on the board as well.
Well, the other scenario, Chris, is we might sort of look to what Richmond do and pick Sharp with pick 2 because we don't think CDT will go with your 2 picks. So,
Yeah.
That you went very tall last year, but then Nank's not getting any younger, and I'm sure you could find a spot for CDT if you really tried hard. So yeah, it's interesting what Matt Clark and his team are going to do at West Coast, but I just think with CDT is a top end talent that we need, and it's I'd love to have both Dersman and CDT. It's just I think it's unlikely. Our list is pretty weak, as many of you know, and it's pretty obvious. So splitting the pick makes a lot of sense.
No, look, that makes. I mean, I think that makes total sense. And it's funny when I actually tweeted out that what do I was tweeting out mainly for Essendon fans initially. I said, what do people think if we traded? I think I did the scenario of 5 and 6 and 25 for Eagles 1 and 14 back then. And it was funny, like a lot of Eagles fans actually were messaging me saying we'd probably be pretty close to happy to do that with where our list is at. So it kind of showed me like, oh, okay, like this is not as... I was like, you always have those fear when I do that. You go, is it an Essendon lens on? Is that... but the more I thought about it, no, like I think they want Dyson Sharp or CDT, and I think that's still a scenario where they can manipulate to get some quite good players and then add a Cumming if they want to or something like that.
Yeah, the other, if Draper ends up being the end of the band too, we could probably help you get in front of the Swede bid with that pick. I think there's going to be a happy discussion amongst Matt Rose and Matt Clark and whoever other Matts there are amongst the 2 clubs. It's they're talking now. Trust me.
And they get along.
They met at the hotel last week, as I think Callum Toomey reported. So, look, they'll work it out. It's got to be a good deal for both parties. It's just weighing up the talent of the Will Dersmer, and obviously Essendon would go to that, and then that helps trying to get Zane this year, next year, or whenever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'll tell you what I think our 2 scenarios are, because I think we're trying to get Dersmer. That's my hunch. And I think they have a good footing with West Coast as far as Vozzo and Rosa and their connection to West Coast to have... I think they would have a very easygoing conversation with them. It wouldn't be like a lot of games or,
Correct.
Playing around. It would be like, hey, guys, we know each other. This is what we're thinking. What do you think? And I think there'll be quite a cordial kind of... And look, West Coast may come back, to be honest, Dersma's too big a gap between 1 and 2 and then that's the end of that story. So I think at least we'll go after Dersma. And then hopefully if the Draper one does fall, I think it only happens if they can get a third top 10 pick in some way, like whether it's trading if Draper is a band 2, trading the 3 early second round picks to move up. But I think that only works for them in that scenario, that they get another kind of another good pick in that top 10. So I always had probably a Dersma coming in my mind, because I still think Richmond may go Taylor and Roby, and I think we would go them, but I just think Richmond probably will go them. That's why I haven't picked them. If the Dersma thing wasn't on, and we had those, and we had the 3 picks after the Tigers, it's a really interesting one. I think Lindsay Pobby's name would get mentioned. I think Cummings' name would get mentioned. And then I genuinely believed, but I said, but you're shutting me down here, because I said there's actually a little bit of a chance CDT slips, that maybe the Eagles don't go after CDT and they go for a different type. So it'll be interesting how that all plays out. So we have that kind of mix of players, and I still in my head I'm still working around the Mitch Marshes and the so there's like a group of players that it's really hard to separate. It's you can actually go a little bit on a needs basis. Like definitely if Xavier Taylor became available and Richmond went, trainer and we've got a few young key backs, we may not have an urgency for that lower pick yet. We may want to go speed, or then I think he goes right into our calculations straight away. And look, so I thought CDT may be something we're after, but then there's a lot of rumours on this side of the world that we're talking to Sean Darcy quite heavily at Freo about coming in so maybe that's not the angle after all. So look, it makes for a very intriguing. What's your likelihood, Chris, of Richmond splitting a pick? What do you think? Do you think it's more likely or not?
I think from what we heard, it's more likely if we go in with 3 and 4. But I reckon that's on the premise that West Coast hold 1 and 2. If that swap that Jet mentioned happens, I think that maybe throws a bit of a curveball. Because I know we have been a little bit keen on Lockie Dodson as well, but obviously I think he would come into play in a split pick area too. And like I said before, Sam Grill comes into play as well. It's going to be fascinating. And as I said, we could help facilitate the Hawks in some way and maybe get pick 8 and pick 26 in for pick 4 if they need something better to try and get Zach Merritt. And look, I don't know if there is a world in which Dersma slips through the first 2, but if there was, I'm questioning Esther to knock on our door to try and get to pick 3 to ensure that we don't take him. But I can't see him lasting till our pick. But there's so many different scenarios to play out. It's just turned into what was probably touted as a boring draft early in the year has all of a sudden turned into a really even and fascinating draft and set of circumstances.
Yeah, and what it is too is just there's all different kinds of players. Like we haven't even mentioned the word Schubert last night as yet, and like he's I think almost the youngest player in this draft crop. Like his birthday's in either November or early December kind of thing. I mean, you could tell he's pretty raw, but you can tell, he's got a good pair of marking hands, and there's a real player there. So there is different positions as well that's come through. Obviously, Harry Dean's out of everyone's hands, but yeah, I think the rise of Xavier Taylor, I think the rise of Roby recent, it's thrown everything. It's like the endless conversation you can have about this draft is like is. I've had people say, hey, you're probably going to get Farrow maybe at 7 or 6 or 7 because of the skill factor. So I think if there's ever going to be sliders, surprises, this is the draft. And maybe they're not even surprises, but if there's just going to be one of those drafts that's going to be very, very kind of hard, to pick. So I guess, Jep, what's just curious, I'll ask you both before we start kind of closing up. What's your biggest weaknesses that you feel like the reason why I thought Dyson Sharp you would be all over him is probably like the midfielder ground ball gets, and he kind of feels like he's a 200 game player. Like you just get that sense he's just like, well, that's 200 games in the seniors, solid 25. What's when you think West Coast Eagles, what's the most immediate need?
Yeah, that contested midfielder to support Harley. So Elliot Yeo injured all last year. We really missed him to sort of physically protect Harley, and Jack Graham did his best, but lone hand really. So for the future outlook, I think they are similar players in some ways, but in a lot of ways they're not. Sharp's got all the courage in the world, wins that contested ball, feeds it out, can play forward if needed, and do his bits and tackles like the best of them. And you said it earlier, his champs was the best, and because it concluded a few months ago, it sort of gets forgotten and lost in translation. And then guys like Roby and Taylor become, the new in thing. But yeah, there's no doubting his talent. I think that's the most important. And then just outside speed. I think all of our clubs need the speed that Cumming would bring or a Grill would bring. Good kicking as well. Lindsay, Farrow. West Coast. We obviously need improvement everywhere and anywhere. But I would start at the coalface on ball.
Yeah. Is Pickett getting a bit of noise your way, Jeb, with his recent sort of form?
Not so much. No, I think the one thing we West Coast do have is a lot of small forwards. So that's definitely not on the cards. We got Wes Wally, one of the greatest names in football.
Is that legit? Really?
Legit. His name is Wes Wally.
That's so good.
And his dad's name's Wes Wally, and his grandfather's name's Wes Wally. So obviously before Wes Wally was probably invented. So yeah, that is happening. He's an NGA player, small forward, was part of the Futures last year and was part of the Australian team that took on one of the VFL teams. I think it was Footscray earlier this season. He can play. So, and look, there's others. There's Tyler, what's his name? Tyler Williams as well, another NGA, and Kobe Evans. So they're all dynamo forwards. Kobe Williams is more of a sort of medium marking forward, power forward, but the others are the small forwards. So as much as I think if Doveston was on the board, if split picks happened, we definitely consider him because of his impact and match-winning ability. But I think if there's one position we do have set, it's the small forward role. And Chris, you would know, like that style of play where I think the modern game and how Richmond play too, where small forwards are so important. And I love, one of my favourite players to watch is Seth Campbell. I think he's so underrated. He does a mountain of work, runs all day, and I really hope he gets a crack in your midfield next year because I think he can add some of that outside speed. And small forward part of the game is just so important now.
Now, you and me both. It's interesting because we're crying out for speed, but we actually probably do have it within our own ranks. We just aren't playing him in the right spot. And that was probably the biggest knock on the coaching this year, that we didn't mix the midfield up anywhere near enough at CBAs. But I think a little bit of it might have been protecting some of the kids. But next year, we definitely want to see your Seth Campbells and Taj and Sammy Lawler getting more of a go. But the other one I wanted to ask about, Jet, Fred Rodriguez was one that was last year was touted kind of top 5, top 10 for a long, long time. And then almost in a lot of mock drafts you see, he's almost heading towards the second round in some of them. What's been the drop-off, if there's been any, or is it just a flavour of the month thing and he's still been playing well and no one's noticed?
No, I was at the Colts GF last weekend and he played well. Like Toby Wan went down in the end of the first quarter with a shoulder injury, so he had to take the load and he definitely stepped up. But again, we talk about modern footy, he does lack foot speed a lot. He's not quick at all. He's in and under like Dyson Sharp. But really doesn't have a tank at the minute. And there's no second position for Fred yet. I'm sure if he develops, and he will get drafted, let's be honest here, he will go to a team and have an impact.
Yeah.
But there's just a little bit of development to go with him in terms of fitness and finding his secondary position. Tackles, he's actually very similar to Dyson Sharp. Interesting, because you're right. He was, as an underager last year, touted really highly, and unfortunately for him, fell off the perch a bit. But that's okay. That means someone's going to get a bargain because he's going to be a ripper. And
Banfield's obviously finishing the season really well. So he looks like. What are your thoughts about him as a future player?
Yeah, big boy. I think he's 191. Again, he was BOG in that Colts GF on Sunday. Yeah, obviously he's got his old man's tank who can
Yep.
run all day on the wing and got a good pair of hands on him. It's just work rate. I think that
Yeah.
whole Claremont Colts team, you could notice their fitness, and he led that way. Inside out, the best way I can describe Banfield is a bit like Jared Berry, can sort of play inside and outside, but more beast mode, more toughness. So yeah, he'll be a future winger. Hopefully early next year. He looks the goods, and I don't want to pump him up too much because he's getting expensive as each day goes on.
Oh, look, well, I mean, for the Bombers, for us next year, it's just, it's actually just getting guys hopefully released from hospital at the moment.
Sit on the park.
So it's just.
No, you got Matt Innes now. You'll be right. Matt's a good fella. Met him once, and yeah, he obviously Ridley's endorsed him already, and
Yeah.
No, he definitely knows what he's doing. He's going to be a big loss for West Coast. So yeah, sleep easy.
No, look, it was of everything that's happened in the off season. It was the biggest one because they got in another guy within this guy called Regan. He's worked in the NFL and NBA, really highly touted. So they're very, very happy with how they've transformed that side because we obviously for us we just got to get guys on the park. We just had no ruckman, Brian Draper out for the year. We had no Zachary. We had no Ben Mackay missed most of the year. Ridley missed most of the year. Langford missed most of the year. So it was just, it was just everyone, Caldwell, everyone with Mick Martin, ACLs. I think we had 5 ACLs. So we just had, and obviously you would know more than anyone, Jeb, is like how debilitating that is to any game plan. Because when you had like 20 injuries, when was it? 21? Was it 22?
2021, 22. Yeah, it was debilitating, and it sort of brought the morale down for the whole team. Like normally, it's opportunity for young players, next guy in type thing. But when it's that many of your leadership group and across all lines on field, it really throws out structures, throws out game plan, and makes life a lot harder.
Yeah, and it's one of the things I try and tell Essendon fans because like they're all over Brad Scott at the moment. Like, come on, guys! like seriously, we had 15 guys debut. Like we had 4 mid-season draft picks and guys shaking hands before a game, going, "My name's Lockie Blackiston. Hope it goes well." So it was like you can't coach that. Like you're just you're just coaching on the fly to try and get through. And it was funny when you mentioned that, Jet, because we were kind of tracking not too bad. Like we're getting debutants and that's fine. It's funny, then Nick Martin went down around round 10 or 12 or something like that. And it just shook the whole place. Like it was like the 5th or 4th ACL. But he's the link man to everything. Like if you know Essence.
Yeah.
And one of your leaders, right? One of your important leaders too.
Exactly.
Spiritual leader.
So when he went down, even Merritt, I heard during the week was so flat because he realised the season's dead, and this is what happened. We lost the last 12, and so it can be quite debilitating to your group, and you were probably getting the end of that with the Draper going to Lions and Rids having some doubt and the way Merritt is, but hopefully we come out of it. But for us, it's a big draft period. It's a really, really key off season because it's not just even our low picks. We've got 22 and 25, and it's there's still some little bit of nuggets there, and whether you trade up, it's just getting it right. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Draper works out and say, worst case scenario, Merritt does get traded for a couple of first rounds and that kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade one pick into the future as well. They know they've got a guy called Kobe Buick coming up in a couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised if they just say, with the new rules, let's get a second first round pick in that year as the father-son. Just give us some cover. It'll be very intriguing how. But I thought Matt Rose had a really good draft. last season. I really like Angus Clark. Obviously, I like Kako. There's some kids that were showing a lot. Matt Rose I reckon he's got a good footy brain and good temperament for what Essendon needs. So, hey, can't thank you enough, Chris and Jep. It's been just so good to hear your stories, hear your club, where you're at. We can kind of take solace with each other about the season, but I think Chris is probably the most the one where he's going, well, I'm actually going, our club's going forward really fast. So, I think I genuinely say this. I'm not trying to sound condescending, Jep. I just desperately want the Eagles to have some luck. Like, I just want them to get out of that, kind of
that rut,
rut, because it's. Like they are a huge club, and I don't think Victorians understand how big the West Coast Eagles are, financially and everything like that, operation wise. They're a big
40,000 still going every week. It's me too. It's the only way's up, thankfully, but it's almost it's already kind of happened. Sometimes you forget how to win, right? So you got to build that winning culture from nothing, and that's Minnie's challenge for sure.
Yeah, and that's why sometimes you go after a Baker and a Starcevic and that sort of stuff who've had that premiership. So I kind of get the logic of having guys who've been through it that can keep telling younger players, this is what you need to do during the week. This is sometimes how you do the weekends after the game in a professional way, and all that kind of experience really helps a young side about how to nurture them through and get them focused. So, look, we're all three clubs are on the way up, because obviously the Tigers, everyone knows when they're up and about, their fan base is probably the loudest of anyone, and they're roaring. But I can't have too much sympathy as yet, because you've come off 3 premierships.
Fair enough.
And had like an amazing period, and you've nailed a draft coming out of a rebuild. So you're probably a bit ahead of us already, why we haven't won a final for 23 years. But look, obviously, Richmond's I think Richmond's a very well respected, highly regarded club, and their fan base is crazy. It must be. I would like, if I wasn't at Essendon, I imagine a player would love to go to the Richmond Football Club, because it would just the atmosphere and going at the G, and they just got that kind of crazy fan base. So can't thank you enough, Jep and Chris. It's been an absolute honour to have you on. Let's hope we have a big 2026. But look, Jep, thank you very much. Good luck to the Eagles.
Thank you.
And Chris,
and good luck to the Bombers and Tigers.
Yes, Chris, good luck to the Tigers. Good luck, and both.
Thank you too.
And good luck for both you, the podcast. So just one more thing, just give the plug one more time, Jet, with the podcast where they can listen.
So Plus 6 podcast. It's a bit of downtime now, but we'll start ramping up our AFL fantasy chat after the draft and looking to next year.
And yourself, Chris?
Big Footy Tiger Cast on YouTube, and that's where we do most of our work. So we'll just keep pumping out draft content, and we'll either be very happy or very sad after the draft. Maybe we can reconvene and complain and whine about who we didn't draft and why.
That actually is not a bad idea. Do a post draft show and see how accurate we were. And Chris, if you ever need anything on draft or need any help on your YouTube stream live, I'm always happy to come on, talk draft with you and support you in any way, and same with you, Jep. So
yeah, likewise.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
For our patrons, thanks so much for supporting us and helping us out as always. We'll continue our draft series as we get closer. Very quick tip, because this show will go out tomorrow. Who's going to win the grand final and who will win the Norm Smith? Jep?
Brisbane and McCluggage.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'll go Geelong and Max Holmes.
I'll go Geelong and Atkins.
Should be a good game, hopefully.
I think it'll be a very, very good game. So sounds like Lockie Neal's going to play. So it'll be interesting to if he everyone's going to be very nervous first quarter for him, because either he does it again straight away or he plays the whole game. Probably him. So thanks, everyone. This is the Lunchtime Catch Up podcast, signing off.